wrong with us?
Oh, I don't like the looks of this.
You don't? Because that's what I said. Tell her, Bart.
Shut up, shut up. We better check with the doctor.
Welcome to Virtual Doctor.
From the makers of Dragon Quest and Sim Sandwich.
Enter symptoms now.
Let's see. Crusty sores,
Yes?
horrible wailing,
Yes! Yes!
any exposure to unsanitary conditions?
Duh, we're pigs.
Okay, and diagnose.
You've got leprosy.
Leprosy!
Ah! Unclean!
Unclean!
Unclean! Help us, Virtual Doc. Look at me. I'm on my knees.
Goodbye.
Okay. All right. You saw in your bulletin, this morning's sermon is titled 10 Lepers Leaping. I don't know if you're in the Christmas spirit, but 10 lepers, I thought it was funny. We're going to talk about leprosy in the Bible today. I had this feeling. I thought, surely there's some funny videos on YouTube about leprosy. I thought, the internet is a cruel and terrible place. They make jokes about the worst possible things, right? And so, but there weren't a lot of options, and so I show you that one. There was one other that involved a leper colony. I'm not showing it to you. It involved a leper colony playing hokey pokey. You put your right foot in and you leave it there. Like it was really untasteful. Why would you even say that, Pastor Jeremy? It's terrible. While I was researching that, I found out there's actually a bit of a spike in leprosy. It's called Hansen's disease, not leprosy, but it's the same thing. Here in America, because people are playing with wild armadillos, and wild armadillos carry the virus. 95% of people are immune to it anyway from them. But anyway, there is a spike. It's like, instead of like 8 people in America getting it a year, like 28 people maybe will get it this year. So we're okay, but don't play with armadillos. There you go. All right. What? Surely I'm at this point, I'm wondering, what am I even doing up here? So you must be wondering the same thing. Why is this happening today? Let's turn to Luke chapter 17. We're going to go to Scripture to get on course here. We'll get back to something that matters. Luke chapter 17, verses 11 through 19. Subtitle of this section of Scripture is 10 Lepers Cleansed. So, okay, maybe I knew what I was doing. Starting in verse 11. Now it happened as Jesus went to Jerusalem that he passed through the midst of Samaria and Galilee. Then as he entered a certain village, there met him 10 men who were lepers, who stood afar off, and they lifted up their voices and said, Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. So when he saw them, he said to them, Go show yourselves to the priests. And so it was that as they went, they were cleansed. And one of them, when he saw that he was healed, returned and with a loud voice glorified God and fell down on his face at his feet, giving him thanks. And he was a Samaritan. So Jesus answered and said, Were there not 10 cleansed, but where are the 9? Were there not any found who returned to give glory to God except this foreigner? And he said to him, Arise, go your way, your faith has made you well. Jesus, with just a word. Really, he just from a distance. They were afar off. They yelled, Jesus, we could use some help. And he said, I got you covered. He said, go, you are cleansed. Actually, he told them, it's interesting, he gave them a direction. He said, go do something. And as they were doing what he said to do, they were cleansed. That's what said. They went, he said, go to your priest and show yourself to him. And as they were doing what Jesus said, then they became cleansed. That's a miracle. That's amazing. And then obviously there's a whole other story about only one came back and was thankful. And we can even wrestle with that. He said, your faith has made you well. The others, what if the other 9, they got it back? We don't, probably not. I feel like that's not really how Jesus operates from what I can tell. But it doesn't tell us. It just says this one was cleaned, that all were cleaned. One said, thank you. Jesus said, your faith has made you clean. They all had enough faith to ask for help and enough faith to go. So maybe that was it. Maybe all their faith was enough. But Jesus did it. He made the thing happen. He healed lepers. Now, it's interesting. Remember, it says, it's listing all these places: Jerusalem, Galilee. Then it just says a certain village. They came upon a certain village, and there were 10 lepers there. Now, I imagine you understand, well, Homer and Bart knew it. Unclean, unclean. They're pointing, hey, you stay back. It was very important. Leprosy is a contagious disease, and so the laws were very clear. If you've got Hansen's disease, they didn't call it that then. If you've got leprosy, you can't be around us. And so to find 10 lepers means that what he had stumbled upon was a leper colony. It was a place that was far enough away from the regular life, regular healthy people, that they could safely and legally live in community but still be exiled. We're not allowed to be around anyone that didn't have leprosy because it's contagious. So to find 10 of them means that they had found a place where, okay, no one will bother us if we're here, so we can all stay here and we can help one another do life as best we can. He finds a leper colony, and then he says, hey, go to the priests, you're all clean. Pretty amazing. Now, much of the Old Testament and that unclean thing, and we think about ceremonial cleanliness, the Jewish aspects of it, all the different things where, if you touch a dead person or you see this, you have to be ceremonially cleansed. Well, this isn't just that. I mean, it's contagious. It's for everybody. It's not just a Jewish problem, it's a human problem. They're out there. And so we have this story, and the simple question is, aren't you glad that Jesus heals lepers? Think about that. Because, even today, as far as I know, I didn't do a ton of research, so if I'm completely wrong on this, I'm taking that as an option. But there's not really a cure for leprosy. So even now, so the only option anyone's ever had is Jesus. And he says, yeah, I'll take care of it. Aren't you glad for that? Yeah. Aren't you glad that Jesus healed you? Obviously, none of us, I'm pretty sure, none of us had leprosy or Hansen's disease. But it absolutely can be a metaphor for all the things that make us not okay, or the things that make us not good enough, or the things that make us not like everybody else. And Jesus heals it. Aren't you glad? I was at a district youth event this weekend. It was for teenagers on the district that feel a call on their life to a lifetime of ministry. And so it was just an opportunity for them to be with some other pastors and hear about ministry and life in the ministry and create some relationships for mentoring and different things. Really neat opportunity. One of the things that happened is we kind of talked, and we let them share some of their issues, some of the things their hurdles they're dealing with, or simply that they anticipate. I think this is going to be a problem if I have a lifetime of ministry. And one that kept coming up over and over, it was big on their list, self-doubt. It's interesting, and of course we spoke right to it, and we prayed for them. But the thing that at least very few people seem to be sharing, is that we all, every one of us, feels like a leper at some point. One way or another, we think we don't belong, or we feel like we don't fit in. We all have self-doubt. We all at some point think there's something wrong with us. And that feeling causes us to think that we can't be with anyone else. That problem causes us to think that we're not good enough, that maybe they can tell that we're weird, and we just feel isolated. But the thing is, we all have these feelings. And so we should be a leper colony. We should say, yeah, this is an okay place to be, because we are all like that. But what we need is the healing touch, or the healing words of Jesus. Aren't you glad that he gives them? Aren't you glad? When it was my turn to speak to these young teenagers, I told them about my salvation story. I told them about when I was at summer camp against my will. Didn't want to be there. Didn't know anybody but my 2 girl cousins. So I hung out with them. And then Thursday night, the night that everybody finds Jesus, or that many of them feel a call to the ministry, like the big night, Thursday night, my cousin says to me, "Do you want to go to the altar?" I said, no, I don't. I don't even want to be here. And she went to the altar without me. And as those things go, they take a while at camp. That service takes a while. And so she was gone for a while. And I was thinking about it, and it kind of dawned on me how vulnerable she had made herself to me. That she just said, "Hey, want to reject me?" And I said, "You're right, I do." And that's how that went, and she rolled with it. And that vulnerability blew my mind. And that's the thing. Finally, I said, okay, if she's willing to do that, maybe there's something here. If she's willing to be vulnerable in that way just to me, maybe this is real. And so I prayed, my prayer was, God, if you're real, and if you even care, I would have a life with you. I mean, if you're really worth that, then I would do that. That was my salvation prayer. Not impressive, not like huge in faith, not a lightning rod. But the thing that got my attention was my cousin making herself vulnerable to me, and it changed my life. And I spend my life in ministry, so hopefully that ends up changing a lot of people's lives. That she made herself vulnerable. Vulnerability is very fertile soil for growth. We don't think about that. In fact, we're told it's a natural thing, like don't be vulnerable, because then you're vulnerable. You know, that's when you get hurt. That's when you have bad things happen, because you're vulnerable. So don't do it. I'll tell you another story. Before I felt a call to ministry, I was volunteering with this youth group as their music person, and we had a choir practice of some sort, and it was going terrible. None of them had practiced. It was very obvious. They're teenagers. Oh, and no offense, and so we stopped the music, and I just went off and I said, well, hey, thanks a lot, guys, for practicing. I mean, you're doing a great job. I just went off in a really gross way. And that helped to zero, as I'm sure you can imagine. You know, that didn't help, and I just realized, I started to have a little bit of perspective, and I realized that, this isn't helping. So I stopped, and I said, guys, I'm sorry. I apologize. And I said, I shouldn't have gone off on you like that. That was a mistake. This is dumb. Let's get past this. And it changed that whole practice, but it really changed my relationship with that youth group. And what it was is that moment when I admitted my own vulnerability. Like, I made a huge mistake in front of them, and then I admitted it and just showed them, I opened myself up, vulnerable. And it was fertile soil for our relationship to grow, for the choir to do better. It's very interesting. Because vulnerability is real. It's honest. That's the truth. Because as much, we all feel like we don't fit in, we all also recognize we all are vulnerable. That's the truth. We are. As much as we try to guard ourselves, we remain vulnerable. So when we admit that, it's honest. And people trust it. More than the facade, more than the show. Christianity, the faith, the church, the belief structure, it has grown in the 2,000 years since Jesus. But historically, if you look at it, you can see certain spikes and upturns in what the conversion rate. The new Christians are created, and they look at the steady flow on a chart, right, a timeline. There are certain times it really goes up, sometimes it goes down. But like certain things, they look, oh wow, a lot of new Christians in this era, in this place, a lot of new Christians here. Some of the biggest ones in the 2nd century, the Antonine plague. The plague. People were sick and dying. And like all other, like not leprosy, but another contagious disease, and they said, oh, get away. And they stopped, they ran, they hid. Until finally at some point, Christians said, well, somebody's got to do something. And so they didn't run away and hide, and they started caring for the sick and removing the dead bodies from homes and streets. And they went in, and that's full vulnerability, right? I mean, they risked their lives to help serve people. That's pretty incredible. And then a century later, the Cyprian plague happened. They say 5,000 people a day were dying in Rome. 5,000 a day. And scatter. Stay and die, leave and live. These are your options. And Christians said, well, we've got to do something. And so they stayed. And they helped. And many gave their lives. And then it happened again. In the 6th century, the Justinian plague. Boom. People, run, get away. Christians said, no, we're going to stay and we're going to try to help. They demonstrated their love for God and their biblical values. They became a very attractive witness. Basically what they said is, I know I will probably die here, but I've found something that makes it worthwhile. I know that it's going to cost me everything, but it won't cost me everything because I found something of greater value that I can't lose. In fact, I am gaining it more by being here. And people said, well, what is that? Well, it's Jesus. And if you look at the timeline, you can see, boom, the Antonine plague, Christianity went up. The Cyprian plague, Christianity went up. The Justinian plague, Christianity went up because people said, what happened in Rome? Is everyone dead? No, they're not dead. There's Christians there. What are you talking about? There's Christians there. They stayed and they helped. Well, what's that about? It's about Jesus. People were impressed. Christians have made themselves vulnerable in the most serious way. They've risked and given their lives for the purpose of helping and healing the sick and hurting. Their example has been followed through the history of the Christian church. Catholic orders have been devoted to care. Mennonites in Holland and Quakers in England form societies to improve health care. Modern medical missionaries do that today. Demonstrated that what they believe is worth more in their lives, and it has been very attractive. It has caused people to pay attention, to consider Jesus, and find salvation. Jesus, in that first passage, he just spoke to them, right? He just said, go to your priest, you'll be good. But in Matthew chapter 8, verses 1 through 4 says, when Jesus had come down from the mountain, great multitudes followed him, and behold, a leper came and worshipped him, saying, Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean. Then Jesus put out his hand and touched him, saying, I'm willing. Be cleansed. Immediately, his leprosy was cleansed. Reached out his hand and touched the untouchable, touched the unclean and said, be cleansed. And immediately it was. Another passage, Matthew 26, just one verse. The beginning, the subtitle is The Plot to Kill Jesus, but here's how it starts. Verse 1. Now it came to pass when Jesus had finished all these sayings, not verse 1, verse 6. This will go much better. When Jesus was in Bethany at the house of Simon the leper, that's the whole verse. He touched one and then he went to one's house. You can't go to their house. You will get leprosy. And he said, no, you're cleansed. And then he went and had dinner with one. While they're in the midst, they're getting ready. This is the end of Jesus' earthly life and ministry. All the machines are working. They're planning to kill him, and they're going to. And he is having dinner at the house of a leper, where he's never supposed to be. Imagine a hospital, specifically the ER, the emergency room, and it's nice. I mean, it's new, it's clean, real spacious. The admissions people are just all really attractive and super nice. They're just welcoming. Like, hey, they're very, very concerned. And it's quick. There's no wait. the doctor is the exact age that you want your doctor to be. I don't know what that is for any of you, but just that age. Perfect. This place is great. Right? It smells good. That'd be weird at a hospital because it doesn't happen. It's fantastic, right? Imagine this hospital, this emergency room. And now I just erase the ambulance part. This emergency room's great. They just don't have any ambulances. If you got a problem, we're ready. You just come in. Just come on in. We're going to take care of you. We'll greet you. It won't take long. We'll get you right in. The doctors are really knowledgeable. All the new equipment. We will take care of you. If you've got a problem, just come in. But now think about the emergencies that we have. Not just us, but other people. Well, they can't just come in. They've got an emergency. They can't get to the hospital. If I could get to the hospital, I'd call my regular doctor and go on Tuesday. But no, I can't. I need an ambulance. We've got to go. We open our doors. We've got a very nice church. It's not brand new, but it's really new. It's not perfectly clean, but it does smell nice. It's a great place. And if somebody shows up, we're super welcoming. We've got great greeters. We do that. We're so nice. We've got padded seats. It's all good, man. If you're looking for a church, just come. We're ready. But right now, we don't really have any ambulances. There are people that need what we have. They're not coming. Society has told them for different reasons, and sometimes we have told them in different ways, unintentionally, that they shouldn't come. They're not really welcome. We need to go where they are. To do that, we're going to have to make ourselves vulnerable. We need to show them that we risk everything. We risk it all for the cause of Christ because we believe that it's worth everything. Leprosy is a metaphor. I said that before. It can be a metaphor. There are people with stuff that they have accepted. It's upon them, and they understand that it changes who they can be around. It changes what they can do. It changes how valuable they are. And they believe that those things mean that they can't be here. And we have to follow the example of Jesus. We got to go. We've got to reach out our hand and put it on them. When they, this shirt, I've been wearing this shirt for 4 days. You don't want to touch this shirt. I don't care. Come here. Give me a hug. No, I'm sick. I don't want you to catch it. I don't care. Come here. We got to go. We have to reach out. This is a beautiful hospital. And people will be so well cared for, so healed by an almighty doctor. It will change their forever. We can take away their leprosy. We can make a whole new life for them. We just got to get them here. We can't make the doors any bigger. We can't open them any wider. It's not going to make a difference. We got to go. We got to find them where they are. We got to be vulnerable in a way that convinces them that we mean what we say, that they are worth it, that what we are offering them is real. We've got to be vulnerable. I've asked the board to be in prayer about our next steps as a church, because we need to find leper colonies in New Cumberland. We need to find people that feel like they don't belong. We need to find the people that feel like they're not welcome, feel like they aren't good enough, people that feel like they need a healing touch, and we need to go to them, even if they never come. You understand? Even if we go to 10 lepers and only one ever comes back, just like happened when Jesus healed 10 lepers, we've got to go. We need to serve them and make ourselves vulnerable to them. We need to show them that Jesus is worth everything to us, and he can be that to them. So I'm going to ask you personally, each of you individually right now, to join the board and me in prayer, to open our eyes and ears and hearts and seek the lost. We need to make a move out of these doors and into the lives of those around us in need. And I don't know what it means yet. I've got some ideas. The board, we've talked about maybe it's this and maybe it's this. Maybe it's all of those things. We've got to figure out what we're going to do. We got to find our ambulance, and we got to get aboard. Somebody's got to learn how to drive it. Somebody's got to learn how to work in the back and all that stuff. There are things that need to do. We've got to do it. We're going to pray, and we're going to sing some songs. But man, would you risk it? Would you dare to be vulnerable to a stranger? Someone that society, that your family, that your inside head says, this is not the right time or place. This is not the right person. Would you dare ask God this morning where you should be going? What seat you need to have on that ambulance? This is a beautiful place, full of beautiful people. Not just physically beautiful. We are a beautiful church. But we got to go. Because they've got to know. We've got to go reach out and touch them. We got to sit down at their dinner table. We got to offer them love and Jesus. Will you pray?